That car had been dead for 3 years. But when a 16-year-old girl turned the key, it roared back to life, dragging a buried secret into the light. And now he's back, but not to buy the car. Hi, everyone. Today we're diving into a story that starts with grease-stained gloves and ends with a truth that no one saw coming. It's about power, who holds it, who's denied it, and what happens when the underestimated refuse to back down. A teenage girl walked into a mechanic's shop to drop off lunch. What she uncovered inside would spark a chain reaction that threatened to expose secrets buried under rust pride and a '69 Dodge Charger. This could happen to anyone, even you. So before we dive into the story, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. The Oklahoma sun beat down hard, the kind of heat that glued your shirt to your back before you even stepped out of the truck. Ari Thomas squinted against the glare as she pulled into the gravel lot of Marston and Sons Auto and Diesel. The truck she drove belonged to her father, Henry Thomas, known in North Tulsa as the man who could fix anything on four wheels. Ari was 16, wiry but sturdy, with a look in her eyes that could sand paint off chrome. In her arms was a brown paper bag with 2 sandwiches, a thermos of iced tea, and a folded napkin her dad insisted on packing himself. The garage hadn't changed in decades. Faded red lettering peeled off the sign above the bay doors, and the only thing louder than the creak of the swinging fan overhead was the hum of 2 bored mechanics inside trying to outwit boredom with dumb jokes. Ari's boots crunched as she walked across the lot. She could already hear them. "Yo, Clint, I think Henry sent backup," one of the men said. "More like daycare duty," the other chuckled. The third man, Clint Hargrove, stepped out from behind a tool chest. Late 50s, white, stocky, stiff posture, the kind of man who thought every handshake was a contest and every smirk had to be earned. He looked Ari up and down like she was a receipt that didn't add up. "You Henry's girl?" he asked. Ari nodded, holding up the lunch bag. "He left this on the counter." Clint motioned toward the back, but something in his face twisted an idea forming. He tilted his head toward a dusty rust-flaked car parked in the far bay. "You see that Charger over there?" he said, loud enough for the other two, Bo and Ricky, to quiet down. "Been sitting here for 3 weeks. No start. We've gone through everything." Ari followed his gaze. The car looked like it had seen a dozen failed restorations and 100 bad decisions. Still, there was a raw beauty under all the neglect. Clint folded his arms. "Why don't you take a look? Show us what your daddy's been teaching you." It wasn't a question, it was a performance. One designed to get a laugh, to put her in her place, and she knew it. But she didn't flinch. "All right," Ari said, dropping her backpack to the floor. "Just don't cry if I fix it." That got a snort out of Ricky and a low whistle from Bo. Clint said nothing. He just stepped back, arms crossed, like a man ready to watch a train wreck. Ari walked up to the car, pulling her curls into a high bun. The gloves from her dad's kit were too big, but she wore them like armor. She didn't touch anything at first. Just looked. Just listened. The car didn't talk to everyone. But Ari, she knew how to listen. 10 minutes passed. Clint started to shift his weight. Bo and Ricky weren't laughing anymore. The Charger's wiring was a mess, frayed connections, bypassed relays wires leading nowhere. It didn't look broken. It looked tampered with. "You ain't gonna find anything just staring at it," Ricky muttered. Ari didn't even glance at him. She reached for a multimeter and began testing connections. Quiet clicks. Steady hands. Battery was dead. Starter had voltage but no ground. Alternator checked out. Then she followed one wire down the steering column and froze. She turned to Clint. "You have someone from Norman work on this?" Before Clint blinked. "Yeah. Said it was an electrical short. Took $800 and left it the same." Ari nodded once and slid under the dashboard. It took less than 5 minutes for her to find it, a spliced ignition line connected to a hidden bypass that looped voltage where it didn't belong. Deliberate, clean, and meant to fool anyone not paying close attention. She slid out grease on her cheek like war paint. Somebody wired this to fail on purpose. The words hung in the air like smoke. Clint stepped forward. "You accusing someone?" "No. I'm telling you what I found. Someone wanted this car to look broken without leaving obvious signs." Bo looked uncomfortable. Ricky actually stopped chewing gum. "Why would someone do that?" Clint asked. Ari shrugged. "You tell me. You're the one who almost sold it. Now they weren't laughing. Now they were listening. Clint's face tightened, but he said nothing. Instead, he motioned for Bo and Ricky to clear out of the bay. Ari turned back toward the Charger, grabbed her flashlight, and leaned back under the dash. The air under there was thick with heat and dust, but she barely noticed. Her hands moved like she'd done this 100 times, which she had just not under fluorescent lights or with an audience. Her father used to say, "Don't chase the problem. Let it reveal itself." She followed that advice, now tracing each wire, each connector, each unlikely path that had no business being there. Her fingers stopped on a small lump beneath the vinyl insulation near the fuse box. She peeled it back. There it was, a short jumper wire, deliberately tucked under the original harness. If she hadn't been looking, if she'd been impatient, she would have missed it. She pulled it free and held it up. "This is the kind of thing you do when you want a car to pass a quick inspection but never start again," she said aloud. Clint walked closer, peering down at the wire like it had cursed his name. "You're saying this was sabotage. I'm saying this wasn't a mistake." Ari stood and wiped her hands on a rag. This was smart. Someone wanted this car to look fixable, but not be fixable. She walked to the tool cart and grabbed a fuse tester. Bo and Ricky hovered nearby, noticeably quieter now. Ari popped open the glove compartment to check for the manual, and that's when she saw something out of place. It looked like a small black square, the size of a matchbox, tucked behind a stack of old gas receipts and a pair of gloves. Ari reached in and pulled it out. "What the hell is this?" she muttered. Clint stepped forward, his brow furrowed. Ari flipped the device over. It had a blinking LED and a label on the bottom. "GPS tracker," she said. Clint took it from her hands, turned it over, and cursed under his breath. "This ain't aftermarket. This is pro-grade. Repo men or someone who doesn't want to be found. Someone's been tracking this car." Ari said, her voice even. The silence was heavier this time. Clint looked toward the Charger like it had just grown fangs. "I got this car off a guy down in Norman," Clint said slowly. "Paid cash, no red flags. He backed out of a sale with another buyer, said the car gave him bad vibes. I thought he was just flaky." Ari raised an eyebrow. "Or maybe he wasn't supposed to sell it at all." Clint exhaled, dragging a hand down his face. "I knew it was too good to be true." Ari crouched back down at the firewall, using the flashlight to follow the rest of the harness. Whatever's going on here, someone put real effort into hiding it. Like they wanted the car to disappear for a while, but not forever. She paused, her light catching on something strange near the distributor. "This part doesn't match." "What do you mean?" Clint asked. "The distributor. It's not original. It's from a different make entirely. Someone swapped it out with one from a '74 Plymouth. Similar fit, but wrong firing order. Screws up the timing." Clint leaned over, inspecting it closely. "I don't remember authorizing that repair." "Because it wasn't a repair," Ari said. "It was another layer. Throw you off the scent, make it impossible to diagnose. Whoever did this didn't want to destroy the car. They just wanted it to stay dead." She stood up, sweat now dripping from her neck. The fan above spun uselessly. Ricky handed her a bottle of water, wordless for once. She drank half of it in a single go, then turned to Clint. "If you'd kept cranking this without finding the bypass, you might have fried the entire ECU. Maybe started a fire." Clint looked shaken, not just embarrassed, unnerved. Bo cleared his throat. You think someone wanted it to look like you didn't know what you were doing?" Ari nodded. "Or make you give up and sell it for cheap? Probably back to them. Clean title fixed by someone else. Easy flip out of state." Clint looked toward the bay door like he expected someone to be standing there. "This car's not just metal anymore," he said. "It's a liability." Ari crouched again and began reconnecting wires, replacing fuses and restoring the ignition coil. Her hands worked fast, her eyes locked in. She didn't need a manual. She had memory instinct and her father's voice guiding her. She grabbed her phone and scrolled through a parts list until she found the distributor serial number. She turned the screen toward Clint. "See, it doesn't match. It's been swapped. Probably why you couldn't get it to idle." Clint stared at the phone, then back at her. "I thought your dad was bragging when he said you knew wiring better than most techs." Ari cracked a tired smile. "He brags a lot, but he ain't wrong." The Charger was starting to look like a car again. She double-checked the distributor cap, adjusted the timing, and replaced the blown fuse. Then she looked toward the ignition switch. "You ready to see if it breathes?" she asked. Clint nodded. Bo grabbed the jump box. Ricky stayed back, watching like a man witnessing a magic trick. Ari climbed into the seat, connected the cables, and turned the key. The charger sputtered once, twice, then like something deep inside decided to come back to life. The engine roared a low, throaty growl that echoed through the bay like a challenge. Ricky stepped back. "Okay, that ain't supposed to happen." Ari sat in the driver's seat, smiling as the engine idled smooth and strong. Clint looked like he'd seen a ghost. She stepped out slowly, wiping her hands on a rag. "Guess it just needed someone to listen?" Bo exhaled. "You didn't fix that car. You resurrected it." But the celebration didn't last long, because just outside the garage, a white pickup truck with dark tinted windows had pulled up to the curb. Engine off. Driver not moving. Watching. Clint noticed it first. "That him?" Ari asked quietly. Clint didn't answer right away. Then he nodded. "Yeah, that's the guy from Norman." The temperature in the garage dropped, not because the air conditioning kicked in, but because the tension that followed that white pickup's arrival was thick enough to stop conversations mid-sentence. Ari stood beside the now purring Charger, eyes narrowed toward the dark-tinted truck. Clint took 2 steps toward the garage door, stopped, and waved Bo off before the man could say a word. "Nobody move," Clint muttered. "Let's see what he does." But the man didn't move. Not for a full minute. He just sat there, engine quiet, face hidden, watching. Then the truck door opened. Ari felt it in her gut. This wasn't just curiosity. This was presence. Deliberate. Calculated. The man stepped out, maybe mid-40s, lean but hard. Pale button-down shirt, jeans, boots worn smooth. No smile. No introduction. He walked up to the open bay doors like he'd been here 1,000 times. He stopped just 10 feet from the threshold and looked straight at Ari. Not at Clint, not at Bo or Ricky. Just her. "You work here?" he asked. Ari met his gaze unmoved. "Today I do." That got the faintest twitch of a smirk, more muscle reflex than humor. "That red Charger, I heard it finally got fixed." "Must have been a miracle," she said evenly. "You usually follow miracles around in a truck." Clint stepped up beside her. "You got business, you talk to me," he said, his voice lower now, heavier. The man turned slowly. "Mr. Hargrove." "Been a while. Not long enough." There was a pause where even the fan overhead seemed to hold its breath. "I'll make this quick," the man said. "That car, there's more to it than you realize. There's money involved. Serious money. It was never supposed to surface again." Clint didn't blink. "Then maybe you should have left it broken." The man didn't smile this time. "This ain't a game. I can walk away now. But if that car disappears again, nobody asks questions. You keep your shop. Everyone stays quiet." Ari folded her arms. Funny how people always start with silence when they're scared of the truth. The man looked back at her slower this time. "You don't want to get mixed up in things that don't concern you, sweetheart." Ari didn't flinch. "Then don't bring your problems where I work." Clint took a step forward. "Let me be clear. If I find out you laid a finger on that engine with the intent to sabotage it or worse, I'll call every agency between here and Oklahoma City, and next time you won't be parked. You'll be cuffed." The man's face lost what little warmth it had. He looked at the Charger, then back at the girl beside it, as if calculating something. "You fixed it," he said, voice lower now. "You brought it back." Ari tilted her head. "You sound like that's a problem." He didn't respond, just turned and walked back to his truck. Got in, started the engine, drove off. The 3 men in the shop stood silent for a long moment after he left. "Who the hell was that?" Bo finally asked. "Name's Carson Delroy." Clint answered. "Used to flip cars through auction sites in Norman. Got flagged once for a shady VIN swap, but nothing ever stuck. Sold me this car cheap after his deal fell through." Ari looked at the Charger, then at Clint. "He's been waiting. Watching. He didn't come today to talk. He came to see if the car was breathing again." Clint nodded. "And now that it is, he'll want it gone." That evening, Ari sat on the back steps of her home, her dad Henry beside her. The porch light buzzed overhead. He handed her a cold bottle of sweet tea and didn't say anything right away. He didn't need to. I wasn't trying to prove anything, Ari said after a while. I just wanted to fix what was wrong. Henry took a sip, his eyes soft. That's the kind of person you are. That's how I raised you. He looked at me like I was in the way. Like, I shouldn't be part of it. Henry gave a quiet chuckle. That's fear. When people see something they didn't plan for, someone they can't predict, they get scared. Doesn't matter how quiet you are. The truth's louder. Ari leaned back, looking at the night sky. He's not done. Henry nodded. No, but neither are you. The next morning came with more heat and more uncertainty. At 6:47 a.m., Ari's phone rang. Clint's name lit up the screen. She answered, voice still groggy. Yeah, the car's gone. Ari sat up straight. Gone. I locked the back bay last night. Double-checked it myself. This morning it's empty. No tire marks. No busted locks. Just gone. Henry, hearing her end of the call, stepped into her room. He knew, Ari said. That guy. He was waiting for it to run again. Then maybe Clint said slowly, that's the best thing that could have happened. Ari blinked. What do you mean? It means he's not hiding anymore. And we've got everything, pictures of the wiring, the GPS tracker, the altered distributor. We send all of it to someone who knows what they're doing. My brother-in-law works in state investigations. Quiet stuff. Disputed titles, auction fraud. Henry looked at his daughter. You okay? Ari nodded, steady now. Yeah. I'm not scared of him, good, Clint said, because I think you just woke up something bigger than a car. You brought a ghost into the daylight. Ari hung up the phone and sat still for a long moment, her fingers still curled around the edge of her bedsheet. Her father, Henry, didn't say anything right away. He just watched her with that patient stillness he always had when things got serious. Not panicked, just aware. You good? He finally asked. Ari nodded slowly. Yeah, just thinking. He tossed her backpack onto the chair by the door. Then let's go think at the shop. You'll feel better doing something about it. By the time they pulled into the lot at Marston & Sons Auto and Diesel, the morning sun was already climbing high. Clint stood near the back bay, hands on his hips, jaw tight. The storage shed where the Charger had been parked was wide open. No signs of force, no signs of struggle, just gone. Bo and Ricky were already on site, both looking more awake than usual. The entire place had the energy of a crime scene, quiet but alert. Locks weren't broken, Clint said as Ari and Henry approached. Keys were still locked in my drawer. No drag marks, nothing. Henry rubbed the back of his neck. Professional, or at least experienced. I don't think he was bluffing, Ari said, eyes scanning the area. He knew how long he had. Probably had a copy of the key or a duplicate cut from memory. Henry looked at Clint. You get anything back on the VIN yet? Clint nodded and pulled a manila envelope from his back pocket. Got this early this morning from my brother-in-law's contact at OBI. He handed it over. Ari took the envelope, opened it, and read the short report inside. Her breath caught halfway through. It was part of a stolen vehicle ring, she said. 5 years ago. Recovered but never claimed. It bounced between private auction shell buyers and ended up with Delroy. Title was laundered twice. No flagged records unless you knew what to look for. Clint let out a slow whistle. So he's been trying to keep it buried. Ari handed the report back. That's why he sabotaged it. He wanted it to stay dead until someone gave up and handed it over cheap. Probably has a guy out in Arizona or Nevada who'd slap on a new VIN, swap a few parts and flip it like it was clean. Bo looked around nervously. And now that it runs, it's a threat. You prove the wiring was tampered with, show the tracker, and connect the dots, that car becomes evidence. Ricky nodded grimly. Which means we're loose ends. Ari's expression didn't change. Then we make sure the paper trail speaks louder than our fear. She pulled out her phone and opened her photo gallery. Every step of her repair had been documented, close-ups of the spliced wires, the aftermarket distributor, the hidden jumper beneath the fuse box, and the GPS tracker still blinking faintly. She turned the screen toward Clint. Let's get this to someone who'll act on it. Clint reached into his tool chest and pulled out a USB drive. You mind loading those in? My brother-in-law can't open private cloud links, but he'll look at physical media. As Ari transferred the files, Henry turned toward Clint. That guy comes back, you call me first. Then the cops. Clint nodded. Already installed new cameras this morning. And I've got eyes on the road now. Bo stepped closer to Ari, scratching the back of his head. Look about the other day. With the jokes and all, I didn't think you'd actually... Ari didn't let him finish. You didn't think. That's the whole problem. Bo's face reddened, but he nodded. Fair. Ricky chimed in quietly. I didn't think anyone could fix that Charger. That engine was cursed. No, Ari said. It was just misunderstood. Happens more than you think. The shop returned to a low hum. Tools clanked. Air hissed from compressors. But the atmosphere had changed. Not with fear, but with something else respect earned, not through argument or ego, but through ability. Later that afternoon, Clint got a call from his brother-in-law. Preliminary look says your girl's right, he said, his voice staticky on speaker. Delroy's name is tied to 3 other flag sales. All older muscle cars. Same pattern. Won't stick unless you have concrete proof of wiring or tampering. We've got that, Clint said. We've got photos, a tracker, and a statement. Then get it to me. But don't move the car again. If he still has access, he might have placed more than just a tracker. It's already gone, Clint replied. He took it back. A pause. Then we're not chasing evidence anymore. We're chasing the guy. That night, Ari stood in her room staring at the wall. The adrenaline had faded. The weight returned. The moment the Charger roared to life had felt like a triumph. But now it felt like a doorway, and one that opened up to a darker hallway than she expected. Henry knocked once, then walked in. You're thinking again, he said. Yeah. He sat beside her. You didn't do anything wrong. You uncovered something that needed light. But what if I made things worse, she asked. He wasn't going to come back until I fixed it. No, Henry said. He was going to come back. You just sped up the clock. And now because of you, we're ready. She nodded, but the silence between them hung heavier than usual. Ron asked if I'd come on part-time, she said. Train under him. Take on wiring jobs. Henry looked at her, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. And what did you say? I said I had to finish school. He chuckled. Smart answer. You've got years ahead of you, Ari, but don't let anyone tell you you're not already ready. Ari looked at the photo on her dresser, her dad grease on his chin, holding her as a toddler in front of the Civic he rebuilt from scrap. Do you think he'll come back again, she asked quietly. Henry stood. If he does, we'll be here. And next time we won't be reacting. We'll be prepared. She nodded, then exhaled deeply and whispered, good. Because deep down, Ari Thomas wasn't just the girl who fixed a dead engine. She was the reason the truth had started running again, and she wasn't going to stop it now. 2 days passed. The shop stayed quiet. Too quiet. Clint kept the new security system running 24/7, and every delivery truck, every unfamiliar car that rolled by on East Pine Street earned a long look from someone in the garage. Bo didn't joke anymore. Ricky stopped playing music from his phone, and Ari was in the back rebuilding a junction box from an old Ford Bronco like nothing had changed even though everything had. She didn't ask about the Charger, didn't check the cameras, but she did keep her backpack zipped with copies of every photo she'd taken, a full record burned to a flash drive tucked in a zippered side pocket. Just in case. Around lunchtime, Clint called her over. He looked tired, jaw stubbled, eyes sunken, but there was a flicker of something behind them, focus. My guy from OBI called again, he said. They flagged Carson Delroy trying to move a different car through Amarillo. He left the state, but they've got eyes on him now. He might have figured out you were onto him. Ari crossed her arms. He knows. Clint nodded. Probably. But here's the thing. He's sloppy when he's pressured. That Charger. It's a key piece now. If he tries to flip it, we've got all the documentation to prove it's connected to a tampered vine. Which means we've got leverage, she said. Exactly. Ari glanced at the open bay. So what happens now? Clint rubbed his neck. We wait, and we work. And if he shows his face again, we don't flinch. We push this forward. We make sure no one else ends up on the wrong end of one of his little setups. Ricky poked his head in from the garage. You might want to see this. Clint and Ari followed him outside. Across the street, same corner where the pickup once parked, now sat a black sedan. Different car, same posture. Parked too neatly, windows tinted, engine off. Ari stepped forward calm. She pulled her phone out and snapped a photo of the plates, then another. Then zoomed in and took one more. Ricky stood stiff. You think it's him? No, Ari said, eyes not leaving the car. He doesn't drive twice in a row. Not if he's careful. That's someone else. Maybe a scout. Maybe just curious. Clint stepped beside her. You want to go over there? She shook her head. Not this time. Let's let them wonder what we know. The car pulled off 10 minutes later. No incident, no faces, but it left a chill behind. That night, Ari sat in the garage after hours soldering a small relay for a client's alternator. Clint was gone. Bo and Ricky too. Just her and the hum of the shop, quiet like it used to be before everything changed. She didn't hear her dad come in until he set a thermos beside her elbow. You know this place hasn't felt the same since you rewired that charger, he said. She smiled faintly, still focused on the coil. Good different or bad different? Neither, he said. It just feels awake now. She sat back, stretched her arms, and finally looked up at him. Ron offered again, she said. Wants me to come on full-time when school's out. Said I'd have my own bay. Henry raised an eyebrow. You thinking about it, I am. He nodded slowly. You've already earned more respect in 2 weeks than some men get in 10 years here. If you want it, take it, but take it on your terms. She looked around the garage. Same walls, same fans, same oil stains. But everything had changed. I didn't fix that car for a job, she said. I fixed it because it was wrong. That's exactly why you're ready, Henry replied. Ari stood, brushed off her jeans, and grabbed her pack. She paused at the threshold of the garage, looking out across the road where the black sedan had sat. Next time they come, she said, they better have their story straight, because the girl they underestimated had become the one they couldn't ignore. Sometimes justice doesn't shout. It doesn't wear a badge, it doesn't carry a gavel, and it sure doesn't wait for permission. Sometimes justice looks like a 16-year-old girl with grease on her face and a socket wrench in her hand, who knows what's right and won't stop until truth starts running again. Ari Thomas didn't step into that shop asking for a fight. She didn't swing a hammer to prove herself or challenge anyone, just to win respect. All she did was walk in, listen to the problem, and solve what everyone else had overlooked. That's how real change begins. In garages and backyards and quiet corners, where someone refuses to accept what's broken as final. Maybe that's something we forget sometimes. That courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet and steady, like hands working in silence. Sometimes it's knowing the difference between showing off and showing up. So the next time someone doubts you, underestimates you, or tries to tell you what you can't do, don't waste time trying to convince them. Let your work speak. Let your grit speak. Let your results speak. Because when the engine turns, when the sabotage unravels, when the truth starts to breathe again, there's no shutting it down. Like Ari proved, you don't need anyone's permission to wake up the system. All you need is to listen closely and turn the key.